Hello, my friends. Today's daily drill will take a look at stakeholder management. What is a stakeholder? Someone who can affect the project, or someone who is impacted by the project, or someone who is interested in the project, or someone who thinks that the project could impact them. So someone who is impacted by the project, someone who can impact the project, someone who is interested in the project, and someone who thinks that the project will impact them. Okay? So whether the person is genuinely involved or thinks they're involved, they're all stakeholders, and it's a job of the project manager to manage them. One of the tools that we use to do this is known as a power interest grid. Now, I tell my students the power interest grid is a conversational tool. It's for conversation among team members to understand how they view stakeholders and to understand what exactly is a more accurate perception of them. So you have stakeholders with a high level of power and a high level of influence or high level of interest. Now, let me just call out the fact that this grid could be plotted by power, interest, or influence, impact. Okay? In fact, if you follow me to the PMBOK guide, 6th edition to 13.1, you see you can call this the power interest grid, or you could plot power influence grid, or you can plot impact influence grid. So in this example, I'm showing power interest. So if you've got a stakeholder with a high level of power and a high level of interest, they will be here. A stakeholder with a low level of power, low level of interest, they will be here. Stakeholder with a high level of power, low level of interest, they will be here. And a stakeholder with a high level of interest and low level of power, they will be here. Now, there are different strategies for each of these stakeholders. For these in column A, you want to manage close. For those in column B, you want to monitor. For those in C, you want to keep satisfied. And for those in D, you want to keep informed. So you notice the M's are diagonal and the K's are diagonal, okay? But that's not the end of the story. This power interest grid could be magnified in one more dimension. So if you think about it, you've got power, you've got interest, but you could add a third dimension, which is attitude. And if you add the third dimension of attitude, you form a virtual cube, as it were. And when you think about it, these stakeholders could be plotted along that cube. So you end up having something like this. And you could look at this as power, you could look at this as interest, but you could look at the z-axis as attitude. So you could have a stakeholder at the 0 point, low level of power, low level of interest, and a poor attitude. The closer they are to 0, the poorer the attitude is. The further out they are away from the 0 mark, let's make this over here, this stakeholder has a low level of power, a low level of interest, but a high attitude, or a good attitude, if you wanted to call it that. This stakeholder that I'll make blue over here has a high level of power, a high level of interest, but a low attitude or a poor attitude. So those stakeholders closer to the front over here have got good attitudes. Okay, these have good attitudes. Those that are at the back, which I'll make the black dots at the back, these are the bad attitudes. So you could have a combination of 3 dimensions: power, interest, attitude. I hope that helped you understand the stakeholder cube. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.